All right. So this is from scanner.com. Donald Trump found guilty in all counts in New York hush money trial. Trump's legal team is expected to appeal. The presumptive Republican presidential nominee is the first United States president to be subject to a criminal trial in New York for first degree. He was accused of making payments to a former attorney in 2016, Michael Cohen, to cover up an alleged affair. Trump's sentencing has been scheduled for July 11th, a week before the Republican National Convention begins in Milwaukee. All motions must be reportedly be filed by June 13th. This wasn't much of a surprise, guys. I mean, we all knew that there was going to be some type of shenanigans happening. Your thoughts?
Well, the thing that was the most surprising was the record that was broken after that. In 10 hours, there were $35 million worth of donations that broke physically, well, technically broke the websites. People were trying to, it was the Fry meme, but there was infinite numbers of Fry going, take our money. And the servers couldn't handle it. They had there was gateway errors everywhere. And this is what puts it in perspective. In 2006, 2007, the record for donations in 24 hours, mind you, 24 hours. We're only talking about 10 hours for Trump, but in 24 hours, it was Ron Paul, 6 million. 6 million versus 35. Okay, so I did a little bit of research on it. I was like, okay, what's the average amount of money that somebody donates across anything, whether it's Democrat, Republican, personal, individual, a PAC, the actual candidate that you're donating to, just across the board, average donation is about $32. That amounts to just over 1 million people. Now, we all know that there aren't 1 million people out there that are all going to just give, what would cost to go to Wendy's. So we're talking about even lesser increments of that. So if you were to cut that in half and everyone gave $15, now that's 2 million people potentially, right? If they just gave a little bit, that's a lot of people, even at the average amount. It's just, my mind's blown on that.
Dude, what's so funny is this reminded me of a tweet from Bette Midler. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this is in response to the record being broken. And she's just in complete denial. She's like, the Trump campaign claims it raised $38 million since he was convicted of election interference. Now, this is before the final numbers came out. She's like, I don't believe a word of it. I personally raised $20 million just last night by posting that I was guilty of breathing. So, it's kind of hilarious that, listen, they got him. They got Trump. He's guilty, right? He's awaiting sentencing, but they're still upset. They're still so upset. And the other thing you said is all the small donations that were pouring in. Do you guys remember that James O'Keefe expose when he went around to the Eastern Shore in Maryland? And he went to all these kind of Gen X, baby boomers and older. And he's like, hey, do you remember donating to Democrats here and here? They're like, oh, no, I don't have any money to donate. And so they have to lie. They have to lie about the small donors. Where Trump, he was just like, I don't even think he said anything. People just sent the money.
We're not talking about super PACs yet. Super PACs didn't even have a chance.
Yeah. So it's pretty amazing. Other thoughts? I was a little bit shocked, I'm going to be honest. After it went one day without a ruling from the jury, and then you had it 4:15 p.m., 4:20 p.m., you had those reports that the judge was sending them home. So I was like, oh, maybe they won't convict, or maybe it will be a hung jury. But then they're like, wait a second, nope. They told the judge, we've made a decision, and then here we are. So I'm a little shocked, to be honest.
They did. And you also have to remember, especially when it comes to donations, all of the Trump supporters, MAGA supporters, they've already made their donations, especially all the small ones. I believe these are all new supporters that have donated.
I wonder how many they are.
Yeah, because, there's, why would you donate again when you've already done it? Let's say if you're, somebody that's kind of middle of the road, makes a little bit of money, so you said, I'll throw $1,000 in there. You're not going to throw another 1,000 in if you can't afford it.
It's also like a clear-cut thing you can do if you want to like help out in this, help the man out. Because we were talking at Timcast, like, what are you supposed to do in the situation if you want to like help Trump or if you want to help, him win the presidency come November? This is really one of the only things you can do right now. Like you can go protest, you can go hand out flyers, but other than that, this is like one of the clear cut ways you can really make a difference. And hopefully he uses the money effectively, which I think he will.
I think he will too. Yeah. Yeah, it says here now it says Trump's legal team is expected to appeal the judgment in the US Supreme Court. At least one commentator suggested the court Bush versus Gore decision in 2000 could provide basis for appeal. I mean, there's a lot of different bases for appeal here, to be honest with you. Judge Juan Merchant's instructions to the jury have become the latest point of scrutiny in already contentious trial. So here, let's jump off of this for a second, because I have a couple of questions that I tried to answer myself, and I went out and got the information for it. So these are like key questions and answers to some of the questions that people have out there that they haven't responded to. So my first question is, how did the state of New York find out about the hush money payments to Stormy Daniels? Looks like the state of New York found out through a series of events that began with media reports and investigations. And media reports and investigations put together. That's always a bad time. Um, In early 2018, the Wall Street Journal published an article revealing that Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's personal lawyer, had paid $130,000 to Stormy Daniels, or Stephanie Clifford, shortly before the 2016 presidential election to prevent her from speaking about the alleged affair with Trump, which, by the way, is not illegal. This report led to further investigations by federal prosecutors in Southern District of New York, eventually uncovering details about the payment and its potential implications in campaign finance violations. But Southern District of New York said they can't try it. The federal, what is it? The DA of the United States wouldn't try it.
Right.
So, like, what are they doing here?
Well, I think Alvin Bragg, him, and a handful of other DAs, I think they ran when they got elected. They ran on "I'm going to get Trump." And if that's your key promise as a politician, because that's what you are in these even a sheriff, as far as I'm concerned, a sheriff is a politician. And if you make a promise that big, you need to at least try. So I think that's why we saw Alvin Bragg bring this. Now, I will say we all love Michael Cohen because he's, the most honest man in the world. But I thought it was funny when you kind of paused there in the beginning of this answer and you said it began with media reports and then investigations. So it's just like, show me the man, I'll show you the crime. This was coming. They just had to find the angle, And even if, listen, you're right, it's not illegal. I mean, this is why people are laughing at. They're like, what did Trump do? Oh, he paid off his girl. Oh,
Jesus.
They just kind of.
Even if he didn't do anything, which is likely he did, because that was her thing. I mean, come on, they call her by her job title, her job name, right? Not by her regular name.
This is the first time I think I've heard of her real name.
Exactly my point. But even if this was just a salacious thing and it was easier to pay off somebody and say, well, we're going to buy the story, NDA, all the things, and have the rights. That happens all the time. That echoes back to things that happened with what's his name? Oh, he did he was the pro wrestler that got in trouble. Had the tapes and everything. Hulk Hogan. When Hulk Hogan had his things that went on.
Man, I forgot about that.
Excuse me, I was reaching for it. I knew it was there. I could see his face, but the brain was off for a hot second. But yeah, Hulk Hogan had big issues with those stories, and when they came out, and there was all kinds of attempts to keep things down, and then there was lawsuits and all of it. It was messy. It was really messy. But was it illegal for them to enter into contracts to buy or sell those stories, salacious or whether they were accurate or not? No.
And that's the tricky part, right? Stormy Daniels could be in the wrong for violating an NDA, but it's not like that's not criminal. That you'd go to a civil court to be like, okay, you violated this. he gave you X amount of dollars, so you wouldn't really speak about this. You spoke about it. Here are your damages. And I'm pretty sure she actually has to pay him money. How much was it that she? Pretty sure this has already been played out
Like
in.
$500,000 or something like that.
Yeah. No, I didn't watch like all the media reporting about the trial like a hawk. I think I spent more time watching the Johnny Depp trial, to be honest. But I don't know if that was brought up at all. Like, hey, listen, Stormy already admitted to like maybe they used that as evidence. I don't know if they did, but I would imagine that was a big part of it. Like, hey, she admitted that she slept with you, and now she was ordered to pay X amount.
That's crazy.
So
Yeah, because there was no other crime, and even if you wanted to bring up another angle of something he had going on that was conflict of interest, he was under contract with ABC during that time frame. So if that would have come out,
sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying is like if Stormy had wanted to destroy him, if they wanted to destroy him before, if he was such a horrible person, why didn't they go after him when he was doing The Apprentice under ABC? Right, because that's when the Stormy Daniels thing, the incident happened where she got paid off.
Right, and I'm glad you brought this up. That's what I was going to say. The crime is falsifying business records, but the issue is they don't know how you arrive to that, right? And it's like, what business records were falsified? And they have the documentation here, but I mean, we'll get into it. The kind of controversy surrounding these 34 charges.
Right. It says right here, invoice 70,000. It's invoice number 235, 35, 70, 35. Voucher
Right.
35, 35, 35. I mean, is he under contract where it's like, okay, well, if I need me to take care of this, this is how much it costs. But no, this is how much that he paid Michael Cohen per month to do these things.
So basically, the payroll became the crime.
Yeah, well, the evidence.
Just hiring a lawyer.
Hiring Michael Cohen is a federal offense.
Well, the paper trail of paying your lawyer is the evidence of the crime. Like, people are like, listen, look, we have the documents right here that proves it. I'm like, no, you just have receipts. Like, not to sound like, like how people use receipts nowadays with the, on the internet, but all you have is like literally, oh, we know he was his lawyer, and we know lawyers get paid. And especially when you're lawyers for a high profile person like that, you get paid a lot. So it's like, unless there's like there's no smoking gun, that's what we're missing here.
Exactly. And like it was also like Trump said was he fired Cohen when Cohen started, going public with all of these promotion kind of things and talking to media, and Cohen was still his lawyer. I think into his presidency, or he was on a retainer of some kind, and he fired him. He was like, "Look, you're public now, and you're bye. I don't want that."
The craziest thing too is Cohen in this trial. Cohen admitted to just stealing money. He's like, "Oh yeah, I just took money. I just do under false intentions."
So the statute of limitations that they did so many mental gymnastics to extend applied to Trump, but it didn't apply to Cohen when Cohen was involved in the same process. That's how he got away with admitting to crimes on the stand and not getting prosecuted.
The reason I bring all that up is just like this conversation. I don't know how long it's gone on so far about the Trump thing, but this alone, any rational person would be like, this is reasonable doubt. This is like, I'm going to have to look more into this. Is there no other evidence? Oh, no? Well, like a rational person would be like, I'm just not convinced. I see where you're going with it. I see how Trump could have paid his lawyer to do this thing, but there's no concrete evidence and there's too many questions. And that's what reasonable doubt is. And I think that's the thing that upsets me the most is just like, politics aside, if you've watched any legal movie, if you ever took like a law class, you know how just completely ridiculous this is. It's just unbelievable that not a single person of that jury was like,
Yeah, we're definitely
go ahead.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into that part down the list here, but let's move on to when the
Sure.
indictment was sealed and when it was open. So the indictment was sealed on March 30th, 2023, following a grand jury vote, and then subsequently unsealed on April 4th, 2023, when Trump was formally arraigned in Manhattan. I don't believe this first date. I think that they had this information sitting. I would really like to know when Alvin Bragg went to the White House, because I think he did, didn't he?
Hmm. I mean, there's visitor logs. I don't know if that's public information, but
It
he,
is.
he would have had to sign in. Is it?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, it is public information. And then the original charges, allegations he orchestrated a scheme to conceal payments to Stormy Daniels. Let's see. He had a gag order was given to him during the, where he wasn't able to defend himself. There were witnesses that they wanted to bring on that they didn't allow, like his tax attorney, to explain all of this stuff to the jurors, to let them know, like, hey, like, this is why he did this, this is why he did that, this is what a retainer is. Half of those jurors, I'm pretty sure, have no idea what a retainer is.
Well, half maybe, but apparently I don't know if this is true, but I think Hannah Claire actually said 3 of the people on the jury are lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
So they should know, but I think we're giving them too much credit. Credit that should be there, but.
Mm-hmm. And then let's see, we got, and then of course you have the issues with Judge Marchand, and why he didn't recuse himself after the findings that he was a Democratic donor. His daughters were making a lot of money off of the case, but he did not recuse himself in the donations to his daughter's involvement because he and the judicial oversight authorities deemed that there was no significant conflict, of interest that would impair his ability to preside impartially over the case. Judges generally expected to manage potential conflicts as long as they do not directly affect their ability to deliver a fair and unbiased ruling. Oh boy. The next thing is, what were the instructions to the jurors and why were they controversial? So the next 2 were AI generated. So I'm just going to let you know that up front so that we can see exactly like what AI and Chat GPT actually thinks about these questions. All right. So this one is instructions to jurors were controversial because they included guidance on how to evaluate the credibility of a witness such as Michael Cohen, who had a history of perjury. Critics argued that the instructions might have unduly influenced the jury by suggesting that they could still convict Trump even if they found some aspects of Cohen's testimony unreliable. Additionally, the instructions raised concerns about the balance between ensuring a fair trial and allowing the jury to make independent judgments.
So I want to be fair here, and I want to acknowledge that this could be, from what I've heard, and this is both from conservative outlets, liberal outlets, like really across the board. I've heard, hey, the judge said the jury can look at all these crimes, and even if they disagree on kind of where point A goes to point B, even if they disagree there, as long as there's a point A, they can find them unanimously guilty. Now, I want to be fair, and it's like maybe the media across the board just has it wrong, a little bit of game of telephone, but I really don't think that's the case, because if that were, you'd hear something from the court, like kind of doubling down, be like, no, you guys have it wrong. But the problem is CNN, Fox, MSNBC, Newsmax, they're all saying the same thing right here, except some, the conservative outlets are taking this and it's like, hey, this is bad. The other outlets are saying, hey, this is interesting. There's nuance. So it's just like, it seems like everyone's kind of on the same page here, which leads me to believe that the judge did say, hey, I don't care how you arrived to that point, as long as you did, that's guilty across the board. And that's just like, I'm not a lawyer, not anything close to being a lawyer. So maybe I'm confused. I'll acknowledge that. But it's okay to ask questions, and it's almost like they're villainizing people who are saying this is kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, nobody said it was good. So at least we have that going.
Not good, yeah, per se. Just like, how interesting, how peculiar. That's kind of like how the left-leaning media portrayed this. It's like, wow, what a special court case. This is so cool.
That's funny. So, which means you're going to love this next AI generated question. So then I asked AI. I said, "Why did Judge Merchan allow the jury to be able to convict while being split on the charges, knowing that it has to be a clear conviction across any count via the Supreme Court ruling of 2021?" You guys ready for the answer? All right, so here it goes. There appears to be a misunderstanding here. Typically, in criminal cases, a unanimous verdict is required for conviction on each count. If the jury is split on any charge, it generally results in a hung jury on that count, not a conviction. It is possible there was confusion or misinterpretation of the court's instructions or procedures, but without specific details on this point, it is difficult to provide a precise explanation. Even ChatGPT doesn't agree with this ruling.
I was gonna say, was this the Google AI? You know, with all the funky answers we've been seeing. But hey, ChatGPT, they usually they're pretty close. But that's you know, and that's the craziest part. Is just like, first of all, I think can't remember who I was listening to kind of break this down. They're like, this is a boring crime. You don't see people
really
getting
is.
charged with felonies for this kind of crime. This is like, hey, we're gonna fine you. It's a slap on the wrist. Don't do it again. But this was like treated like, you would have thought he was covering up like a murder or something.
They're doing the same thing with how they've been treating FFLs under the, you know, so they've had that zero tolerance over just basic bookkeeping errors. I think VSO described it like this, and he said, you know, he's got SOTs and all the extra stuff. He's not just a guy that can buy and sell like basic stuff. And he's like, I deal with them all the time. My home is my FFL address, so they come right in here and all this stuff. And most of the time, they're fine. And their job is to do bookkeeping for themselves, to make sure they have their records right, not necessarily to come and tell you your records are wrong. However, this is the pattern of the Biden administration in certain places and different people within the ATF. And now we see within the bookkeeping of your legal expenses, now they get to tell you what you're allowed to categorize as this, that, or the other.
Without actually telling you.
We also need to talk about the rationale on why this is a crime, why you're supposed to keep your books in good order. It's to protect us. It's to protect the little guy. Who was the little guy in this scenario? This was a payment between Trump and Stormy Daniels, right? Like, who is this really protecting? It's not protecting the masses. This is so like tax dollars don't get misused, and people use it like the FTX guy. This is why these are crimes. This is, and so you have to really ask yourself at the end of the day is like, yes, technically he did something wrong, but this is what discretion is, and judges are taught to use. In a perfect, not even a perfect world, in a rational world, a judge would have taken at this case, look at this case and thrown it out immediately. They're like, I'm sorry, this is ridiculous. It's a waste of our time. It's a waste of taxpayer money to even go through with this case. But
yeah.
We don't live in a rational world.
Yeah, and not just that, but also how they found Trump guilty based off of convicted perjurer Michael Cohen, and their limited knowledge of laws and retainers to lawyers.
Right.
I still don't believe that half those people knew what a retainer is. Yeah, they had 3 lawyers, but I don't think that was the case. I don't think that was the point. I think the point was just get a conviction, because it would take a finance attorney at least 6 months to figure this out. Nonetheless, jurors in 10 hours that don't have any experience.
And let's remember, according to like left-leaning media, Trump is terrible. He's a terrible businessman. Everything he touches fails. So like, are you really surprised that he, screwed up bookkeeping too? It's just the logic does not ever, stay consistent.
He's both a madman and a genius all at the same time. He's this maniacal 5D chess warlord trying to take over our country and destroy our democracy. But he's a complete and absolute idiot too.
It's like an episode of Scooby-Doo. They always get the guy. You know, that's Trump. He's the enemy. He's the villain in every Scooby-Doo episode. They always get him.
You would have called me if it wasn't for those damn strippers. All right, so to close this section out, what does this mean for future attorneys and their retainers, and even past cases? You know, now what this means is that any retainer that's held can now be tried under anything in the state of New York, and maybe in other states.
Right. Well,
You know,
not
that's
just that.
really
I mean,
dangerous.
you can just start just charging past presidents with anything. You know, I mean, technically, this happened before he was president. I think is what they're saying.
No,
But
this
screw
happened
it.
This happened while he was president.
The payments, the bookkeeping that happened while he was president.
Or at least,
Okay.
from my knowledge, at least when it comes to Stormy Daniels, it was while he was president. I believe
Maybe
Allegedly.
what they're arguing is that the actual like physical, affair happened outside of his presidency. Maybe that's what they're arguing, and then the bookkeeping happened during.
I guess. I just don't.
So on a side note,
yeah.
speaking of people that have been raided, there's a developing thing I think going on with Alex Jones right now,
Yeah.
and him getting potentially shut down. I think is there an actual raid going on, or is it like
earlier?
Yeah, I think they tried, and he knew his rights, and he basically pushed him out.
Wow.
Show.
It might be the end of InfoWars. He's been talking about this for a while, but we'll keep tabs on it as we go on the show. So if we have to switch gears and talk about, Alex Jones has been the bellwether when it comes to censorship in the past. We need to pay attention. Regardless of what we think of, some of his crazier out there over the fence, over the horizon, over the rainbow stuff that sometimes he can get on tangents about. He's been right on a lot of stuff, and he's also been
still an American citizen.
Yes. Yeah. This is First Amendment stuff right now. That's why we are here on Rumble, and why Rumble exists is because of what they've been doing to people like Alex Jones. So we'll keep tabs on that.
I'll kind of look into it while we continue, see if I see anything.
Gotcha. Well, to kind of conclude this out, this trial, raises numerous legal and ethical questions, reflecting the complexities of campaign finance laws, the integrity of legal processes, and the standards expected of legal professionals. And the trial's outcomes and controversies likely influence future legal practices, like I said earlier, when it comes to attorneys and their retainers and things like that.